I want to say thank you for the suggestion to do a review on the movie Dune. I went to see it recently, and I'm going to break this review into just two parts. So, one is going to be no spoilers, and the second one would be light spoilers, basically from the original movie and the book. So, you go into it with the information I say, and it won't affect the movie. But for those who don't want any spoilers, Dune is a epic movie, like Lawrence of Arabia or something, where the battles aren't CGI. There are CGI in the movie, but it's not. It's peppered through. It's not distracting like some of the Avengers movies are great, but the CGI can kind of take you out of the movie. This the epic vistas and the story, which is very odd because they say you don't need to know anything about Dune going into it, but I don't really think that's 100% true. You really kind of have a little bit of a knowledge of it because some things they just don't explain. Like they don't explain anything to do with the spice or even the navigators, the spice navigators who actually use the spice. And there are other things that they do from the movie and from the book relatively early that don't happen till later. So it is kind of out of sync and very easy to watch and not really feel like you'd be forgiven to say that I didn't really understand this because things weren't explained. But that being said, it's an epic vista of scenery and music was the score really helped propel it into epic proportions. And as far as should you see it, I if you're a fan of sci-fi and I'll even compare it to Star Wars, it's a must see. And I actually saw an hour of it on HBO Max. And then I said, you know what, I don't want to watch this on a small screen. I went to see it on the big screen, and I'm happy I did. So, yeah, I would say as far as my score on it, I would say probably 8.5 out of 10. So, definitely must see. Okay, but now, spoilers. Okay, so you've been warned there is spoilers at this point. Dune, or the planet Dune, was given to House Atreides to rule it after the Harkonians had had it for like 100 years, 90 years actually. And the Harkonians, they just wanted profit, so they ran that thing into the ground. And so when the Duke Atreides gets there, and his son Paul, which is a very big part of the books, in the books Paul Atreides is 15. And in the movie, the first movie, 1985, he was like 31 years old. But in this movie, Paul Atreides is very much a young kid. And even though he doesn't have a lot to say in it, I was amazed how much the Paul Atreides, acted like the Duke, his father. They almost had the same mannerisms, the way they spoke. It was very well done. I don't know if it was intentional. Second of all, the one thing I did like more about the 1985 Dune was they actually had shown you with their interpretation of the spice navigators, the guild navigators, and the movies takes place in the year 10,800 and something, and basically what happened was 10,000 years ago, in the to the movies timeline, there was a big war and almost destroyed mankind. So they decided, hey, you know what? We're not going to have any more computers that have human AI that think for us. So they outlawed that, and so then they got to where they can go through space and they could fold space. Now, folding space is like the theory from some movies where they show a piece of paper and they fold it over and they put a pencil through it. There's a movie I can think of as a horror movie. I can't remember the name, but they did that as well. But now there's other movies like Star Wars and Star Trek, which use the warp light speed and the warp engines. And I think Han Solo said it best, and he said that Luke was trying to tell him about, hey, I thought the ship was fast. And Han Solo says, hey, watch it, kid, or you'll find yourself floating home. Traveling through hyperspace ain't like dusting crops, boy. Without precise navigations, you fly right through a star, bounce too close to a supernova, that end you trip real quick. And that is a very accurate to me description of flying through space in even the Dune universe, and the fact that they don't have navigators, they just fold space, and one out of every 8 ships before they had the spice navigators would get destroyed because it would come right out into a black hole and get sucked in, or appear in a planet and get destroyed. So the spice is actually, the humans went out to all these different planets, and one of them was they're actually humans, but the Space Guild, and they started ingesting the spice on a large level, and it actually gave them like powers where they could actually see into the future, and that's actually what the spice does. It's addictive, so the people that actually do use the spice, eventually they just keep getting more and more. And there's 3 phases. There's a human phase, there's like a Loch Ness monster phase, and then there's like the fish phase. That's the last phase. Most people, or whatever, that go through this, they actually die before they get to that fish phase. But in the 1984 movie, they actually show like a big tank come in, and you see a navigator. It looks like some alien creature, but it's not. It's actually a human who's ingested so much of this spice that it's changed his appearance. It's looking like a fish, a big fish head. Anyway, so what they do is they fold space like they did before, but the navigator can see into the future because he does all the spice. And that's how they know not to come up in because they're seen into the future, they know where to appear. And it makes space travel safe. And it's a monopoly. Only the Space Guild could use this, could do this thing with the spice and seeing into the future, and they have a monopoly on space travel in essence. Then the Harkonnens and the Emperor think that Duke Atreides is getting too popular, so that's actually the setup. And you think I'm giving too much away, but really, it's not, because the first movie kind of set that all up in the beginning, kind of in words and text and people narrating it through the movie. But basically, that was the gist of it. I don't want to get into details because that would be spoilers about what really is happening. But let's just say the Emperor, he ain't such a nice guy, and he's very jealous. And they actually say that in the very first few minutes of the movie. All that being said, it's definitely a universe that you could dive into, and this movie is a visual treat. Knowing more is not bad going into this movie, because really the stories and the way they show how the different humans have progressed and changed physically and mentally makes it a really classic piece. And it is actually a show or movie about colonialism, so it's really hard to escape that. But that being said, again, Dune is an epic story. Where Star Wars is a space opera, Dune is an epic story of what our fate could be 10,000 years from now. Again, thank you for watching, and I hope you do see it. It's a movie I think is worth seeing. Thank you much. Bye-bye.